live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Yes, it is. It's very live. Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live on Thursday, March 30th. I'm Brian Schnee. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going in depth. The indictment of former President Donald Trump, the ruling coming down, or at least the discussion coming down, and really getting underway in the last, 90 minutes or so. Gwyneth Paltrow ski injury trial from Park City also shaking things up. We have a lot to go in depth on tonight. You can always get in touch with us throughout the show. It's pretty easy to do. Just use the hashtag 2NewsLive. Join the conversation. You can always find me on the socials. We're everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The cool kids are on TikTok. That's where you can find me too. Hope you'll join me there. Also, if you'd like to contribute to the conversation, comment on our live YouTube feed right now. Also on Facebook. We can get your comments there. Well, let's dive into some major breaking news that we've been talking about here on 2 News at 5 o'clock. Also on our website, former President Donald Trump being charged with a crime. I just caught up with University of Utah professor of political sciences Tim Chambliss about this. Take a listen.
It is unprecedented. It is historic. It is a result of an investigation that is just about 6 years, because the incident in question occurred about 3 weeks before the November 2016 election.
How do you see all of this playing out, and maybe what potential charges could come from this?
Well, chances are there are going to be felony charges, could be misdemeanor, but more likely a felony. What we have here is a situation where a candidate for president who became president lied. He cheated. He, through a lawyer, paid $130,000 to a woman who was a porn star in order to buy her silence. As it was, he didn't win the election, but he came close in terms of the Electoral College in winning it, but not the popular vote. But the reason why her silence was bought was to help him get elected. This is a violation of tax laws. Aside from morality and questions of unethical conduct, it's a violation of tax laws, federal tax laws. This was a presidential election.
How historic is this, Tim?
Again, historic. We have never in our history, since the days of George Washington, had a president indicted by a grand jury. Grand jury system we inherited from England, English common law. We have it, and for the first time ever, a former president has been indicted.
How does the nation react to this, Tim?
It's a very good question. Certainly, most people would prefer never to be indicted, ever. Okay, so it's certainly a negative. And certainly politically, Democrats, independents would see this as something that will influence them. Republicans, we'll see. In Utah, in 2016, in 2020, yes, Donald Trump did receive the majority vote for president, but it was smaller than compared to other states that have similar points of view. How it's going to influence the presidential campaign, we'll see. An opponent of his, the governor of Florida, is scheduled to come next month, April 22nd, and come and speak down at Utah Valley University. He is much like the ex-president in terms of public policy positions, but without the baggage.
Well, that's Tim Chambliss there talking about this guy, Governor Ron DeSantis, who just tossed this one out on social media about 35, 40 minutes ago. He says the weaponization of the legal system is advanced a political agenda, turns the rule of a law on its head. He called it un-American. I want to hear from Eric Trump, though, who also said, this is, of course, Donald Trump's son, this is what you get for giving a crooked politician $1 million. Alvin Bragg is a Soros puppet. Now, we can't get out of here without hearing from Alvin Bragg himself. Alvin Bragg is the Manhattan district attorney that had all of this kind of, work itself out this afternoon. He just said in a statement about 5 minutes ago, this evening we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office for arraignment on a Supreme Court indictment, which remains under seal. Guidance will be provided when the arraignment date is selected. Well, there's a lot to digest here tonight regarding the future of former President Donald Trump. Let's go in depth on our major breaking news. Former President Donald Trump being charged with a crime. Reports indicate former president will be criminally charged for his role in alleged hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. The former president is the first U.S. president to ever be indicted. So let's talk about this on the legal side. Sky Lazaro, a criminal defense attorney, kind enough to be peppered with all of our questions here tonight. We are live here on 2 News Live. Sky, thank you for a few minutes.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Where does this go from here?
Well, as DA Bragg said, the next step in the process is the arraignment process. So they'll set a date. President Trump will have to appear, former President Trump will have to appear in Manhattan before a judge. Usually at that process, they'll enter not guilty pleas and then talk about whatever pretrial release or, in some cases, incarceration or detention and what that looks like going forward.
How do things change with the former president? I mean, this is one of the highest profile individuals you will ever levy charges against.
I think that remains to be seen. I do not envy the judge who gets to sit up there and make these decisions in a case like this. Especially when you have the security issues and everything else, my guess is there's going to be some sort of pretrial release type agreement that they come to, whether that be monitoring or just stay out of trouble or whatever it is.
Safety is obviously of utmost concern when you have a trial of this magnitude.
Correct.
But when you're talking about charges, what could they look like?
I think that remains to be seen. What's presented to the grand jury is done in secrecy. And so we know that they have to do with the Stormy Daniels payoff, but we don't know anything more. We don't know if it has to do with statements he made or if there's other state laws that he violated in doing so. They've spent a number of years investigating this. I mean, DA Bragg came under a bunch of criticism when he was newly elected for not filing anything right away, and then chose to investigate it for another year before presenting it to a grand jury. So
how hard will it be for a grand jury to not have any political sort of ideology when looking into this, but also B, not looking at anything else that Mr. Trump has done throughout his life when making a decision on this?
That's a tough one, and anytime you have a case that involves either a high-profile figure in this, former president, I think that's almost impossible, and that's not going to change as this case progresses. I mean, if they get to a place where they want to seat a jury, I don't know how you seat a jury who can say, I don't have a position on this.
Lots of questions that will hopefully get answered in the, days, weeks, months to come at this point. Sky, thank you. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to let you come back with us in just a moment because We're going to talk about another big topic that just hit our newsroom within the last 90 minutes or so. We've got to go in depth on our other breaking story of the night. A decision has been made in Park City. This is the Gwyneth Paltrow ski trial. Been going on about a week now. The ruling in favor of Gwyneth Paltrow, who countersued Terry Sanderson for $1 after he filed a lawsuit in 2019. Our Brian Malahy has been there. He's been sweating it out. If you can do that in Park City this time of year. Brian's been sweating it out as people make their way outside of the courtroom. Yeah, right. How have both sides commented about this outcome, Bri?
So I asked Gwyneth Paltrow one question. Was it worth it? When she walked out the doors behind me about an hour or so ago, she looked at me. If she responded, I didn't hear it. And she didn't take any other questions, got in a car and left. Terry Sanderson did speak. He stopped and took probably a dozen questions. And we asked him, among other things, about his injuries, why he even brought this case in the first place. People have ski accidents all the time. They get up, they brush themselves off, they keep skiing. He said he'd never been hit so hard in his life. He also shared what Gwyneth Paltrow said to him when she left the court. And she said, according to Sanderson, she wished him well, and he responded, "Thank you, dear." We've also talked to some observers outside the courtroom as well today who said that they were not surprised by the verdict. They've been sitting in the court watching on television, and they think that the evidence just wasn't on Sanderson's side. The jury agreed. The jury said that Gwyneth Paltrow was not at fault at all. Terry Sanderson was 100% at fault.
Brian Malahy up there covering this one for us in Park City. As many individuals involved in this case funneled out of the courtroom, it seemed, all at once. Brian snagged them all and was able to get some questions out. Hey, great work up there, Brian. Thank you so much. I want to go in depth on this with the trial wrapping up today. Sky Lazaro, a criminal defense attorney, joining us, not just to talk about the big news regarding former President Donald Trump, but the situation that unfolded here in Park City between Terry Sanderson and Gwyneth Paltrow. Any surprises when the verdict came down today?
I think it's fairly telling how the jury felt about this when they issued their decision that it was 100% Terry Sanderson's fault. Utah allows comparative negligence, and you'll have to forgive me, I have partners who are far better experts on this than I am. But Utah allows juries to apportion fault to different parties, and then payments can be made in accordance with those. So in this case, the jury, made a decision that he was 100% his fault. And so I think that's pretty telling about how they felt about the evidence.
Just in general, for any trial, he said, she said, with a lot of creativity from both sides trying to say, no, this was mine. Mm-hmm. How do you go about this in your role of really trying to sell who you're representing when it is a he said, she said scenario?
In so many cases are that way, in both civil and criminal, where we don't have independent, in this case there were some independent witnesses, but in some cases there just are none. So it really is just that, and you really, part of your job as a good trial lawyer is communicating that story in a really effective way to the jury so that they, buy into it.
Sky, thank you so much for the insight, not just on the latest situation coming out of Park City, but also weighing in on President Donald Trump's news that came out just about an hour or so ago. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. With the trial wrapping up, we of course want to hear from you at home. Now, we sent out this poll question today asking, how closely have you followed the Gwyneth Paltrow personal injury trial? We've been streaming a lot of these on our YouTube pages. We've been bringing you live looks inside of the courtroom over the last week. Well, grab that cell phone of yours, scan the QR code on your screen, and weigh in. How closely have you followed the personal injury trial? This one's pretty neck and neck. The options: watched every day, only news reports, not at all, apparently just by a short margin. Most of you haven't watched a lick of this. I don't believe you. Hey, tonight at 10, getting ready for the highly anticipated murder trial for Lori Vallow-Daybell. Daniel Woodruff live for us to give us a preview of his story airing tonight. Daniel, what can people expect tonight on KUTV 2 News at 10?
Well, Brian, we're going to look at basically the case that's happened and also what to expect when the trial gets underway. Remember that this is a very complex case. Lori Vallow-Daybell and her husband, Chad Daybell, have both been charged in the murders of Lori's two children, JJ and Tylee, as well as in the death of Chad Daybell's late wife, Tammy. Chad and Lori, of course, got married a few weeks after Tammy died a few years ago. And so when Lori Vallow-Daybell goes on trial, that will be one of two cases here on the Idaho side. There's more happening in Arizona we won't get into. But we looked at basically how long might we expect this trial to take and what types of things will they be looking for in a jury. Remember, the trial got moved from Rexburg, near where the children's bodies were found, to Boise. That's where it's going to be taking place. There are some interesting elements with this trial in terms of media access and camera access in the courtroom. Lots of restrictions on that. We're looking at all of that over this umbrella of basically tragic story that we've been reporting on for years now, of the deaths of these people and ultimately who is going to be held responsible. Lori Vallow-Daybell will not face the death penalty if convicted, but could certainly face a lot of time in prison. That will be determined as this trial gets underway.
Well, Daniel, you're no stranger to being in the courtroom to cover some of these cases. You were just in Park City for a day covering the Gwyneth Paltrow trial. But how do you foresee this one playing out? There's so many elements. There was movement involved. Could this take a while still?
Yeah, I'm never going to say on my own opinion what I think things will play out as, Brian, but the attorney and former prosecutor that I spoke with, Nathan Evershed, he told me that he thinks this will take a long time. Now, what does long mean? Likely weeks and weeks. Jury selection itself could take, he said, up to a week. We'll see how long that actually gets played out with. But he expects a long trial just because of the complexity of the case and the number of witnesses that are likely to be called. And we'll get into all of that in my story tonight, coming up on 2 News at 10.
You are not
Daniel Woodruff live for us tonight on 2 News Live. Daniel, thanks again. His story starts tonight, 2 News at 10 o'clock. You can find the report from Daniel Woodruff. Now, as the trial begins next week, stay with 2 News for updates, breaking news alerts. You can download our 2 News mobile app. Of course, be sure to follow Daniel on social media. He's very active on Twitter, also on Facebook. He will be bringing you updates as well, as he not only shares more pieces about this, but covers the trial itself. Daniel, thanks again. Let's turn now to first alert weather, because you know what? Sterling, it just continues to snow.
It does. I've decided I'm just going to forecast snow until it stops on its own.
You can't be wrong at this point.
That's right, exactly. And we have a first alert weather day tomorrow because we've got some winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. Let's get right to it and show you what we've got. There's a low pressure system sitting up over Idaho right now. That's circulating some little disturbance coming around the top of that low pressure system, and it's going to be bringing us a pretty good chance. I've just started doing this, so where is it? Okay, there's the low right here. You can see this moisture swinging around coming into northern Utah right now. So we're going to see snow increasing tonight, especially after midnight tonight. That's when we expect the heavier snow to fall. And we could get 1 to 4 inches of snow. The mountains could get a lot more than that. So we're looking at 12 to 18 inches and possibly higher in the cottonwoods. But you can see why this is coming right into northern Utah and why they have extended actually the winter weather advisories for this storm system. Right now what we've got is just scattered rain or snow showers depending on your location. And those have been continuing. They don't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon because they just keep coming across the Great Salt Lake there. Eastern Utah's had some thunderstorms today. They're continuing to move through the Moab area with some showers there. And down in southern Utah, we've also had some thunder showers rolling through that area. Not much in the way of any heavy rain inside of Utah, but we have some snow showers up over the higher elevations of central Utah. And by the way, that winter storm warning, gusty winds with it as well, which is another reason why they're calling it a winter storm warning, because of the heavy snow and the winds and blowing and drifting. And the winter weather advisories continue all the way down to the southern mountains and the eastern mountains of Utah. The Uinta's under a winter weather advisory, so just be advised that things could be a little bit difficult in the higher elevations. And we're expecting, like I said, 1 to 4 inches of snow possible in that advisory area. 26 tonight in Price and Richfield, 25 in Cedar City. So temperatures, even though it's almost the April, are still very, very perfect for snow tonight. 44 in Price tomorrow, 44 in Provo, 46 in Ogden, and 38 in Logan. We should see some warmer temperatures tomorrow afternoon. So here's where the rain is. The snow comes in about 7 a.m. tomorrow. It's continuing, and then it turns to rain by early afternoon, and then starts to clear out by 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. For southern Utah, we've got a little bit of shower activity tonight, but that all clears out by tomorrow morning, and you warm up to about 60 degrees tomorrow afternoon. So as we look at the storm system itself, this is where all the action is going to be with this mainly. You can see that snow here. This is 3 a.m. snowing. This is noon, still snowing, but then starting to turn over to rain possibly, and then it pulls out, and it looks like by 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock tomorrow night, we'll see clearing skies, at least for a temporary, and the weekend is looking pretty nice. The latest rainfall totals or precipitation totals for this are a little under a ½ inch for Salt Lake. So really, this is the bullseye, Logan, Ogden, Salt Lake City, right through here. This is where this is really going to take place. The rest of this area is really not going to see that much snow. We are looking for those precipitation totals to continue to climb, though. We're already over 2 inches for Salt Lake City for the month of March. Here's the forecast for St. George, 71 on Sunday, and then we'll see those temperatures in the 60s as we move into the first part of the week. And for southern Utah, we'll see those high temperatures right there, around 47 degrees tomorrow with the first alert weather day tomorrow morning. Make sure you tune into Lindsay Stores as you head out the door. But we pop right up to close to 60 on Saturday. That's weird. I mean, just crazy. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Winter weather advisories, and then 60 degrees. So just take your pick.
I wanted to show everyone a live picture from Little Cottonwood Canyon right now, because a lot could shake itself out there up there tonight with an inner lodge going into effect tonight at 10 o'clock. They've just gotten so much snow.
Yeah, so they're already record.
Yes.
And now they're going to get another 1 to 2 feet.
So 800 inches, not there yet, but that's
close.
a big number.
Closing in.
You've been doing this a little bit. Have you been?
No.
Have you been around for an 800-inch year?
I have not been around for an 800-inch year, so there you go. I don't think anybody has.
Well, if obviously you're out there driving this evening into those early morning hours, the First Alert Weather Day in effect for Friday morning, so keep it locked right here for 2 News this morning. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for 2 News Live. We're back here tomorrow night, 5:30. We hope you join us again. More in-depth conversations, of course, the topics that you want to know about. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We will see you tomorrow.